Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good day. It is Wednesday, once again, one of my 2 days off during the week. I'm off on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so it's pretty cool. Coming to you from my apartment in the Bronx, and I have a lot of thoughts on my mind right now. This is the first video that I'm posting, and I didn't want it to be just like a bunch of... Well, I mean, it's going to be a lot of unfiltered thoughts of mine, a lot of things that I'm just basically going to be speaking from the top of my head. It's a bit of I guess a video blog of sorts. So, several years ago, back when I first started on Twitter, I got into a debate with a very prominent Twitter celebrity. Not going to name any names, not going to get too deep into it, because I mean, I don't even remember what the discussion was really all about. But the one thing that did stick with me was that we came to a disagreement, but at the end of the conversation, this Twitter celebrity referred to me as a quote-unquote nice guy misogynist. And at first, like, I'm not gonna lie, it hurt. Because I thought that, I thought that being able to disagree on things and talk about issues in good faith, I kind of figured all of those things were still in play. But I guess this was maybe about 7, maybe 8 years ago, and people were just starting to figure out that if you can pit folk against each other in many respects, in any ways, that would make for likes, retweets, and as Twitter evolved, you kind of get other stuff like the GIF responses and all sorts of, I guess, evolving snark, we'll call it. But anyways, it hurt. It stuck in my head, and it came up yesterday. Like, thoughts of this came up as I was walking home from work, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about the way that black men are being attacked and singled out, really, on social media, and even in your print media and stuff like that. Like, I can remember some things, like when the Jussie Smollett situation first dropped. Matter of fact, there's a bit of a timeline that I've been following. So when Kevin Hart was first announced that he was hosting the Oscars, as many people know, I don't know who exactly did it, but they found, I guess, homophobic tweets or jokes that he told from a decade ago. And people went in on him. They told, they wanted him to step down. they basically made him the face of bigotry and homophobia. When Jussie Smollett first announced that he had been attacked by two white MAGA hat wearing men, according to his own account, many of your favorites in media made, like, instead of going after the white men and making a stance about, say, the rise in white supremacist violence, a lot of people went back to Kevin Hart. For whatever reason, they went back to him and continued to make straight black men, or I hear the term cishet used, like cisgender, heterosexual black men being what they've called the weakest link in the fight for equality or equity or whatever issues that we're fighting for, I guess. Barely any mention of the men who attacked Jussie Smollett. When it was, and ultimately Jussie Smollett was found to be a liar. He faked his own attack. And yeah, I'm just going through the timeline. But yet, folks still wanted to make this out to be like, well, if black men, if, like, you know, all the men who were like, well, we suspected Smollett's story was BS from the beginning, a lot of people were like, well, if you display a certain level of emotion about it, or if you come off at, you know, maybe a little too, I don't know, like, I don't know, but if your reaction was like a little too forceful for their taste, they would say, well, you still have like homophobic energy. And I'm like, I never understood it. I really did not understand it. It made me angry. It really made me angry as a black man. And even when, and the other thing too, well, just to double back, when Kevin Hart gave his support to Jussie Smollett, I believe it was Ira Madison, who said, basically, Kevin Hart, you can kick rocks. Like, your support doesn't mean anything. Your apologies don't mean anything. And I really didn't know how to take that. And the vitriol has really, like, gotten worse. I think of Terry Crews most recently. And his comments about, like, people were getting on him about toxic masculinity, about, you know, his definitions of toxic masculinity and everything else. And it was like, and then as soon as he said something about the importance of black fathers, men as fathers, and the responsibility that they have to the children that they helped create, all of a sudden it was, he, you know, like, he was, instead of being this champion for social justice and, you know, this, you know, someone who was fighting against toxic masculinity and whatever, they vilified him. And of late, they also, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, or was it last week, where essentially, like, I'm just going through things in the timeline. Like, I've seen things that have said, black straight men are the white people of black people. I have seen black women refer to black men in very harsh terms. And like whenever, and it's just, it's something's very nasty about it. Like, I can't really put my finger on it. I don't know. The problem that I'm finding is that a lot of this energy, a lot of this hatred, of this outright hatred of black men, and this weaponizing that I've seen of interracial dating, of like black women kind of waving their romantic and or social abandonments of black men for whatever reason. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with interracial dating, interracial marriage, or anything like that, but like, it just seems like there's this weaponization that's been happening. And ultimately, it's kind of put me, as a black man, I kind of don't know really where to begin. I mean, I've had a social media presence on Twitter specifically for going on 10 years, and I have to say, it is the absolute worst. Oh, one other piece one other piece in the timeline that I've seen. What's his name? Terrell Starr, who is supposedly, he's a black male journalist. He's done a lot of reporting on Russia. He's supposed to be an expert on Russia. When it comes to to Senator Kamala Harris running for president, he, instead of focusing on, like, he wanted to do a story about black male voting patterns. And instead of focusing on the 80%, I think it was like 87% of black men who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, he decided to focus on the 13% of registered black male voters, and instead make their misogyny, their internalized step-and-fetching or whatever, he decided to make them the narrative of how, like, the dominating narrative of how black people, like, how black men vote. Like, we have, it was like, we have this disgust for the possibility of a woman, especially a black woman, leading us, leading the country. And I'm like, what type of, like, I guess, for lack of a better term, like, what type of shit is that? I mean, like, that's a, like, I can't speak for other men. I can only speak for myself. And I guess now I'm getting to the point of my little rant here. But this shit hurts. Okay? Like, when I became a liberal 10 years ago, Like, the catalyst for me becoming a liberal was the abortion debate. Dr. George Tiller in Kansas had his head blown off in the church he was an usher in, by a right-wing terrorist. And I had voted conservative, I had voted Republican for many years up to that point, and then once I saw that, I was like, you know what, I got to get out of here. Like, no, I can't deal with this. Like, I have always, been in support of a woman's right to choose her own destiny, the choices that she makes for her own body. Like, bodily autonomy means everything to me. And my love for black women, and I know I'm not I'm not perfect at all when I say this. Like, I'm probably the last person to talk about this, but I've married black women. I have dated black women exclusively. And, like, I see black women as, like, some of the most amazing people I know. And for a lot of this vitriol, this outright hatred of black men that has manifested itself over the last several months and probably within the last couple of years, it hurts. And I know what people will say. They'll be like, well, we're not talking about all black men. Like, I know that we're not talking about all black men. And I'm like, but if you're saying something, that means you were affected by it. I'm like, well, or no. They'll say, well, excuse me, if you haven't done anything to be trash or to be called out on, then why are you mad? Like, why are you upset? And I'm like, how can I not be upset when I'm watching people tear black men down, especially when it comes from black women? I'm sorry, but, like, that bothers me. Like, that seriously bothers me. Like, I love my people. I love my blackness. I love being black. I love supporting black business. I love seeing black people at their best, when we're happy, when we're taken care of, when we love one another, when we take care of each other. Like, that means a lot to me. So when I see, like, black women tearing down, black women and others tear down black men who we already have, like, mass incarceration is high, unemployment rates amongst black men are very high, we are undereducated, like, in a lot of ways, black men, we suffer hard. And to see all of this hatred come from black women and others, and then when it's turned on to other black women who speak up for black men on social media, they're referred to as, quote, pick-me's. And I'm like, how? So black women who step up for black men are treated like groupies. Hatred of black men gets thousands, hundreds and thousands of likes and retweets on social media and is pushed as, like, the dominant narrative. And it hurts. It genuinely hurts, especially when I, as a man, like, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. And I've never, you know, like, have I done trash things? Yes. I've been married twice. I've been in a lot of, like, you know, short-term relationships. You know, my dating life post my second marriage has been terrible. But, like, my love for black women is strong and always will be. And it's like, I don't understand. Why is there so much hatred for black men? Why? It hurts. It bothers me. It really does. And this video ran a lot longer than what I wanted. But we got to come together, y'all. We really do. We have got to come together. We've got to stop fighting. We've got to stop this zero-sum politics where if you even disagree in the slightest with someone, if you disagree in the slightest with someone, if your views are not orthodox and lockstep with some dominant Twitter celebrity with hundreds of thousands of followers, then there's something, like, inherently wrong with you. That's not how we do it. That's not how things should go. We are not going to advance as a people. We're not going to advance as a culture. There will not be any unity if we're tearing each other apart. They just won't. It's got to stop. It has to stop. Anyways, that's all I've got to say about that. Y'all take care. Have a great day. And I guess if you can make it through this video, then hey, I appreciate you listening and more to come. So watch this space. Thanks.